should have made that 2 minutes longer. I didn't. So I've heard that song, "Shot in the Dark." I can't tell you how many times. Currently, in my current band, it's one of the instrumentals that I'm trying to get the rest of the band to play and be okay with playing. Um, but I've never listened to that song with headphones on. And in my left speaker, my left headphone, I guess, the there's a. It sounds like a bassoon. It's a bassoon or maybe a baritone saxophone or something. But I had never heard that solo that way before. It's like it was. I don't know. If you're listening to this, I recommend going back and listening with headphones. It's a different experience for that song. Anyway, my name's John Kulas. I'm a 20-year professor of industrial and organizational psychology. 10 or 11 now, probably year user of R for what most people consider R to be primarily used for, which is a statistical platform. And for the last 7 or 8 or 9 years, I've also been using R to wrap entire projects and to communicate the results of the analyses that you're working on, to write papers and make presentations and books and websites. So I'm kind of, not kind of, I'm very passionate about getting other people to incorporate this type of workflow into whatever it is that they're doing. So if you're using R for analytical purposes, hopefully we can get a few people on board with this kind of more encompassing perspective on that platform, which is you can do the whole project in R. You don't need to jump between your analytical device and your word processor or your presentation slide deck editing thing. You can do it all within R, and we do it all within R. And so every week I hang out here on Tuesdays at 7 o'clock Eastern. We've been starting pretty consistently, I'd say, at that time, and then we end. It almost never ends before 8 o'clock, but I try to as much as possible keep it to just a straight hour. And what we do in addition to kind of just making ourselves available, if there's anyone out there that's interested in doing this and wants to know how to get started, or maybe you're trying it but have run into an obstacle, or maybe you just want somebody to bounce some ideas off of. In addition to that, we've been checking out kind of features of the R platform, but being used for these non-traditional kind of reasons and crafting communication things instead of just focusing on analytical platforms. I'm sorry, I'm laughing. There's so much going on right now. Um, I don't know if I can share everything. But so what we've been doing the last few weeks, it doesn't seem like it's really taken too many people by storm here, but I'm interested in it, so we'll keep taking a look. We've been playing with branding and theming and trying to alter the look of documents to fit something that's consistent with your work or your school or just whatever theme you're interested in. By the way, so at the end of last week, you'll see in a second, we ended up using a theme that was silly, and so to be not silly, I decided to go with a cartoon, which doesn't make a lot of sense right now. But I thought this week the theme that we could probably use, since for whatever reason we kind of started doing some Pink Panther-ish things, is maybe a Pink Panther theme. So I think we'll do that tonight. So the last few weeks we've been looking into options to get these products to look like what we want to. The first week it was agnostic to the type of product that you're trying to produce. That is, the branding can apply to slides like what you're looking at here, or PDFs, or HTML files, which kind of form the background of websites, and the way that books are currently recommended to be authored through this platform we've been using called Quarto. Um, But last week, the route we took to, I gotta get this music off. I'm sorry. It's it's Harry Belafonte, and he's fine, but oh, it's not King Cole. I'm sorry. Why did I think that was Harry Belafonte? Um, but that, along with people digging in my lawn and heavy equipment being out here, just, collectively rather distracting. So we'll let old Nat keep singing his calypso song, and then I'll probably jump back in with it in a little bit. My workflow, in addition to crafting as much as possible through R, I also have lounge music always constantly playing in the background. Usually, thematically, and just kind of like it, the way that much of the lounge music is structured, it works well just for kind of not having to pay too much attention. But occasionally, it can be a little grating. So tonight we'll take a look at building a theme, a specific theme. Uh, in that theme, I think, unless someone pops in and out wants to work for McDonald's and they say, I want to create a McDonald's theme, we can do that. But absent that, I think we'll just probably do a Pink Panther theme. So before we get into details about what happened last week, let's do our standard transition into what
Well, in
happened
their
last
search
week.
for the Upsidasium mine, our heroes have finally got to Mount Flatten, the world's only floating mountain. But Bullwinkle, who unearthed a large boulder of the anti-gravity metal, soon found himself falling upward at remarkable speed.
I always expected to go to heaven, but not so soon.
Drop it, Bullwinkle!
Well, in their
Your,
search for the Upsidasium mine, our heroes have finally got to Mount Flatten, the world's only floating mountain. But Bullwinkle, who unearthed a large boulder of the anti-gravity metal, soon found himself falling upward.
Wow. Okay. We might
Well,
not
in
be
their
able
search
to, I
for the
don't
Upsidasium mine, our heroes have finally...
crying out loud. What an odd evening. My goodness. Okay. So maybe the people digging holes in my mountain, maybe they've installed an anti-Bullwinkle device or something. I don't know. I'm not too concerned because they're also digging in all the other houses along my street. So if it is some alien conspiracy thing that's well coordinated and hidden, so I'm not all that concerned about it. I am concerned about not getting Bullwinkle in here though. He's kind of in my
Well, in
he's
their
kind of
search for the Upsidasium mine, our heroes have finally got to Mount Flatten, the world's only floating mountain. But Bullwinkle, who unearthed a large boulder of the anti-gravity metal, soon found himself falling upward at remarkable speed.
I always expected to go to heaven, but not so soon.
Drop it, Bullwinkle!
I can't, Rocky. I'm too high up.
It was true, Bullwinkle shot higher and higher, and truly he was in a dilemma.
Yeah, I dasn't hold on and I dasn't let go.
Then the brainy squirrel got an idea,
If you still have your pick with you, just break some pieces off the rock.
and Bullwinkle did just that. And with each piece he chipped off, his upward speed slowed and slowed until finally he actually began to move downward again.
Don't chip any more, Bullwinkle. That's just right. Boy, keeping that stuff is going to be harder than getting it.
You know, I have the same trouble with money.
so the that little bit probably wasn't worth the hassle that it took to get to it, except for Bullwinkle's use of the word dasn't. I probably haven't heard dasn't since I was a kid and first saw that episode of Rocky and Bullwinkle. I remember Upsidasium, so I probably did see this sequence of episodes. So last week, and again, these slides are available in the comments to tonight's live stream. And so there's interactive elements on here. If you access those, you should be able to get most of what I have, other than on the hosting site that I'm using. I mentioned this last week, but I am feeling a little guilty for all the stuff that I have up there. So when I've been hosting things that are intended for other people to be able to access them, but it requires a lot of hosting space, I've been peeling back a little bit. So I'll walk you through what that means in a second here. So the script tab and the CSS tab is fully available. The reveal slides themselves, where I have this view web page in full screen, you may not get the full HTML effect on that. And again, if someone's out there interested in getting that in terms of what the rendering looks like, just drop me a note and I can do it. Or better yet, you can just take this script and hit the clipboard in the upper right hand corner. You can take the CSS, hit the clipboard in the upper right hand corner, and you can do this on your computer. So you can create those RevvealJS slides based on these two pieces of information. So the script itself, we have been using just the template content for these reveal slides. Sorry, I had to mute myself for a second there. So we've been using the standard content other than little tiny additions. So we added a hyperlink just to see if we could kind of tweak the appearance of that hyperlink a little bit. I put an image in there as well. And so the image is of some lilacs, the purplish spring flowers that smell nice. And other than that, it's just standard boilerplate information that comes off of a RevvealJS slide. If you enter Quarto and say, I want you to give me a slide, and that's the default information that it gives you. I guess we changed the title as well. They don't come in with the title best in the world. Maybe they should. It's something we can actually maybe make as a recommendation to posit. They're always open to recommendations. Again, in order to use the method that we were using last week and we're going to continue to use this week, we need to specify this theme subcommand within the RevvealJS format request. The mouse wheel true, that's something that I tend to use on these slides by default. I like to be able to use the mouse wheel to, as you roll it down, you'll scroll across the slides. So that's not necessary to facilitate and to execute what we did last week. I just tend to put that in kind of as a reflective thing that I do. And then the theme itself, in terms of how we're specifying what we want this to look like, we called it kind of a long name, file name, which is not great best practice there, but we called it Theme Playground. And the extension is kind of important. The SCSS stands for Sassy CSS, and it's one of the more modern versions of scripting that is used to alter the appearance, look, and feel of HTML content. And so it looks a little gobbledygooky. It's a language. It's actually not that bad if you deconstruct it, and we'll walk through this again tonight. But one of the unique things about Sassy CSS is it uses these $ notations to implicate broadly affecting elements within the HTML page that you eventually want to render. This $ exclamation point default is kind of a neat feature of this way of structuring information. It's just something that is specified but can be overwritten. And so we played with, sorry about that. So we played with a few things here. The primary things that we played with were colors and the background of in this case, the RevvealJS slides, what those look like, what the link color looks like, and then body colors, primarily font. It's the primary text. And then we did try, I found out how to do this. We were just kind of feeling around and trying to see if we could affect some things that we thought might be affected based on just kind of snippets of code that we had found. And so we were wondering if we could affect line height. Well, not line height is actually one of these dollars. Sorry, it's my mouse wheel. I like it, but probably not greatest thing to be enabled for going through slides like this. There is a $ convention for line height on the slides as well. We just, again, last week going quickly through there and trying not to have too much dead space, over the course of this hour. I missed it, so I found it in the interceding week. So we'll come back to that and probably add that just to see how that works. But this is one way to affect the theming in terms of what the slides look like. For us, again, we found this picture and it was deemed a pretty picture, I guess. So we decided to just kind of follow that color format and scheme in order to direct how we are going to affect the coloration and the theme and the feel of these slides. And so there you see the title rendered, but it's rendered in this lilac kind of color. There's a greenish color that's on the three horizontal bars here for the menu. Hyperlink color, we specified that as well. That's our go-to badass hexadecimal code color. So if we were to look at that, that's here on line 10, BADA55, and that renders as this kind of what would you call it? Greenish, like not too deep green, yellowish green kind of color. The main font is here. So the main font is rendering with this color, with this hex color 222, and the hex color 222 is just black. Sorry, I have so many tabs open. I'm trying to find. There we go. So on line 9, that's the main text that we actually have. And what else do we have here? The lilac color. Where is the lilac color specified? Let's take a look at that, and then we'll just be done with this. Lilac. Where's lilac? I don't see lilac specified. Oh, doggone it. Crying out loud. I don't know what's going on with my allergies, maybe. But I don't see lilac specified. Now, maybe it's this one that we commented out. Let's do a look on that. Sorry, I have ice in my mouth. It was just got almost as bad as just. That's definitely not it. Well, we're going to reconstruct it anyway, so we'll try to figure out where that lilac color actually comes from. It's in here somewhere. It has to be. Now, it might be that it's something that I undid before I actually took this information and pasted it over in tonight's slides. But we'll play again with the colors. We'll play with the headings. We'll play with the fonts, and we'll try to get a slide presentation that's not based on this lilac kind of scheme, which I really don't like. Rather, we'll try to get it consistent with the Pink Panther, because I love the Pink Panther. And again, if anyone pops by and has a different idea, if you want to do it, I kind of have a funny story about picking companies to use as an example. I have a commercial product, and I wanted an example company to show off some theming aspects of it, the logo and font and things like colors and things like that. So 2 years ago, when I started this, or 3 years ago, 2 or 3, probably 2 years ago, I decided that I should probably use a company that is widely well respected and not controversial. So I chose Tesla, it turned out to be kind of funny over the course of the last, I don't know, what is it, year or so. But we won't do that. So the Pink Panther, I think, is fairly universally loved. If it's not, just, you know, well, no, I wouldn't say that. If it's not, maybe we just have different tastes. But there's hyperlinks here as well on the custom themes. These are the same hyperlinks that we used last week. There's a little kind of information on what CSS is, what Sassy CSS is, what Sassy is. These are three uniquely different things. There's a help page on how to create themes. A lot of this is replicated in this week's slides. You can see where I took the snippet here, this line height. Now that's not something that had any effect, but again, we'll see why that is when we build our own. And then on this 2, I put a different link on the number 2 this week to a location on the help page that you could navigate to, but I wanted to have it a little more readily available. And what we were looking for last week was just right here. It's presentation line height. And so if we would have seen that, then we would have had the effect that we were thinking that we would have when we applied the CSS that we had. All right, so let's do that. And then the other thing I was thinking, if we have enough time, is taking a look at kind of what our slides end up looking like with this new theme versus using the alternative approach, which is the _brand.yaml specification that applies not only to RevvealJS but to other slide types as well, because that looks a little more efficient. So that looks like that's something that maybe has some built-in decisions made for us, so we don't have to get to this fine level of specification. So this is very specific. We can affect just about anything that we want to by altering these different elements here. Okay, so let's do that. Let's go into. I guess what I can do is I can go into the theming. We created a new project last week, and we called it theming. And in that project folder, excuse me, in that project folder, you know what this is what I'm gonna have to do as soon as this stream is over. I think I'm gonna go to bed. It's 7 o'clock Central, or when we end, it'll be 7 o'clock Central. But my goodness, this day is just getting odder and odder and odder. Let me see here. Cause you had a bad day, you take it one down, you sing a sad song. Yeah, cats always make everything better. So we'll take a look at what we did last week. We'll redo it, and then we'll change it to a Pink Panther theme. So this is the same information that's contained in the slides this week that are available if you take a look in the comments. Now you'll see that one thing that's different here is I already did a little kind of taking a look. Oh, there's our lilac. So our lilac was actually in the presentation heading color, which makes sense because I moved out of that project folder, which makes sense because that's where we saw the lilac color was in the headings. So I just hadn't noticed it because we used this shorthand of only 3 hex symbols instead of the traditional 6. Okay, so this presentation line height is having the effect of really spreading out the information here. And obviously, we don't want this. I wanted to have control over it. So if we move that down to 1.3, I'm not sure what the default unit is on something like line height. We've largely been using the EM unit. That's very helpful on these HTML pages. It means magnify it this much of what it otherwise would be. And so if we wanted, for example, to double check that this is affecting what it is, we could change this to black. And the expectation is the headings on each of these pages, on each of these separate slides, is now going to be black, and it is. So I guess it's just coincidence that we like badass as a hex code and the lilac was actually bad. Okay, so again, we can use this as a starting point so we don't have to start from scratch, but let's actually let's build a Pink Panther theme. Now, in order to build a Pink Panther theme, a couple things we can do. first of all, let's look for a picture of the Pink Panther. Now there's the classic old renditions, and then there's the newer ones. This is definitely a newer one. This is kind of a he must have some underground appeal as well, because there's like some cannabis related ones. This is my favorite. This is a classic that's taken off of the one of the initial movies, but also it's on one of the Henry Mancini soundtracks to the movie itself. This is actually a modern rendition of it. I can tell just by some of the specifications here in terms of the eyes are a little too. Anyway, it's a newer one, but that's okay. It's a newer one that is taking as influence the old classic one, and I appreciate that. So let's look for the colors look pretty consistent. So even though there's all these new renders, this one of the cannabis guys. This is kind of the era that I'm familiar with. When I was a kid, we had reruns of the 1950s era, 1950s, 1960s era Pink Panther. And one of the things that I've been doing, there's probably a more efficient way to do this, but one of the things I've been doing to find these hex codes is I've just been taking snips, and then I will look for a color finder, and again, I know there's probably more efficient ways to actually do this. I think you can actually do it in Paint. Let me pull up Paint and see if you can do it. So here eyedropper I think is the one. Now the thing about, we have this color, but I'm not sure if we can get the hex code off of that. So this wasn't intended to be a tutorial on 1990s software. So we'll just find an online color picker, and we'll use our image. I wonder if I can paste that in. Can I paste? And it doesn't want me to paste. Okay, so I'm going to save our Pink Panther that we're using here on my desktop. And we'll call him Pink Panther. I already have a Pink Panther, apparently. And then see if we can find it. I have a very kind of standard way of organizing things, and these weekly Tuesday sessions have somewhat blown that up. Just so I don't interfere with the way I normally do things. Now there's a nice, we'll take his cheek, and there we have the hex code. So I think that can be one of ours that we use. This one's kind of nice to give us a palette too. So now the palette seems to be based on the entire image. So I wonder if what we might want to do, the yellow, I don't think is something, and again, I'm not a designer person, so I can be talked out of this, but I wonder if we might be better off, instead of taking the shot of the Pink Panther that we did, I wonder if we might be better off just taking 3 of these colors. So the 3 colors I'm looking at are in his ear. There's a little off pink, so almost white. There's the accent, which is almost purplish, and then there's the main color. So I'm gonna take a different screenshot there, and if I can get out of this. So we're gonna look for our image again, and hopefully there's not, there probably is some sort of limit in terms of how many images we can upload on just what we happen to find here. And I guess we can grab the black as well. Let's get his nose. So there I think we have four. So we have four pinkish colors, not including the black, not including the off, the background information. But that might be enough for us to create a palette. And so the reason I thought maybe we would take a second step without the yellow and without some of these other colors on it is so we might have a more easy to use palette right here. And I'm looking at these colors because as we're creating our slides, colors are going to be one of the more important colors are going to be one of the more important aspects that we do. So hopefully we can do another image here. If not, we'll have to find just another online free site. And there we go. A little more specific. Okay. And so that, yeah, that palette, I think to me, is a little nicer. Now for a background, this is this is subtle. It's not white, but it's not far from white. I kind of like that. So I wonder in our background if we use that. Well, let's see what that looks like. So again, we've just changed the hyperlink color and the background of our slides. Is that too much? I don't think that's too much. I actually kind of like that. You see the hyperlink also reflected in our menu bar down here. Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Now the headings. The headings, we'll want something a little bolder on that. This first one is probably the most saturated. That's the outline color, I'm guessing. So let's see what that looks like. That was going to be our presentation headings. Now, well, let's see what that looks like. Again, I'm not a design person, so I don't know the best combination of these. That looks fine. I don't know if we're going to do this. I guess we don't necessarily need black as our primary text, right? It would almost be nice if our background is a little darker and then we could go light with the text. That must, I don't think I like that. There's kind of a gray. I don't think I like that either. I guess we could try this. Well, we could do the same. We could do the same as the headings. I mean, that would be one possibility. So let's try that. So we'll do the same as the headings for our main font colors, and we'll re-render and see what that looks like. Probably not going to have enough time tonight to contrast this with the alternative. Hyperlink, I don't know, I guess that's okay. It's okay. I almost would like that hyperlink. I wonder if we should make that a slightly different color. It doesn't really stand out. It doesn't matter. Okay, so there we have our colors. We need font as well. I think I found kind of a fun font for the weekly slides. And so the weekly slides, if I pull up the CSS file that I've been using for those, it should be at the bottom. Again, this is a very cluttered project folder because we've got so many of these. There's 80 of these weekly sessions now that we've done. So this is a massive CSS file that I just kind of keep running. Font Diner Swanky. Okay, I don't remember that, but apparently that's what I used. So now this might be a little fun. So we'll see if we can get this loaded in, assuming that this isn't something that people tend to have on their computers. We might need a reading in of that font, and I'm guessing we probably will need a reading in of that font. The structure of this is a little different. So let's just go one by one and see if we can kind of deconstruct. Now this is only expected. I guess I don't want to change too much. So we're only expecting this to have an effect on the titles of these different slides, and as a matter of fact, we're not expecting it to happen the first time here, because we're assuming that we're going to need to go in there and actually tell it where to find font diner swanky. Now, let's see if we can find that again. So one of the strategies that we've been using weekly is to do some font imports from Google Fonts, and that I guarantee that's where I found font diner swanky. So just go ahead and see if we can just paste that toward the top of our sassy CSS file here and see what happens. Again, I'm not really expecting it for that to have an effect right away, but it did, so that's easy. Okay. So there's the titles that are being affected. We should be also actually, I really like that. It's starting to look like Pink Panther. Now, boy, that Q looks weird, doesn't it? So as I look through here, it looks like there's a mixture of uppercase and lowercase. Now this is one thing that I thought that we could maybe play with, because there are options to force uppercase, to force lowercase, things like that. This I don't think is having any effect whatsoever, so we can just get rid of that as we're kind of going along here. One thing that we don't have yet is a logo, and that's something that the brand YAML specification did give us on these slides, and that was kind of nice. The other thing we should do is we should find an image anyway, just to kind of put the Pink Panther in here. Again, I'm kind of a snob with this. I don't have, so if someone has a idea for this, I would love to hear it, but I don't have. Well, this is curious. Why did our picture go away? Sometimes the preview kind of hides. Yeah, it's just hidden in the preview. It's still there. I don't like that. It's a JPEG. It's not a PNG. Typically, if it's transparent backgrounds, we're looking for a PNG. I don't have a great filter at this point for doing a more efficient kind of image search. So if anyone has any ideas, I know that you can, there are online kind of background getting rid of, there are background, there are online tools to get rid of backgrounds from images. Since we're trying to do everything that we do with these reproducible research standards, I am trying to, as much as possible, just pull images straight from URLs so other people can access them as well. I know I do have one in this week's slide deck. It's not really cheating. I think it's just saving a little time. I do have that large image of the Pink Panther lying on his back and he's smoking a cigarette, which, you know, I know smoking is not great, but I just love that image when he is smoking. So let's just go and see what the URL is for that, because we can just pull it straight from this week's slides. And pulled up the wrong one. So I want to pull up the QMD, not the HTML file. And again, this is getting a little cluttered. What is today, the 3rd? And where is he? There he is. And I wouldn't expect anyone else to know that or be able to find it. It's just I know the structure of those files pretty well because I've been creating them. So there's our Pink Panther, again, not showing on the preview, but I like that. I actually like that quite a bit. Now, what else do we want to change in terms of a theme? We did say logo, so I guess we can see if we can get a logo on there. Now, last week I talked a little bit about my surprise that the logo was something that was fairly easy to specify within these Quarto presentations, because I think when I first started doing these, that wasn't the case, and so it's something that apparently they've been working on. It can't get much easier than that. Now, that would have to go in the YAML though, so what we ideally would do is not put that in the YAML, but we want that in our theme. So let's see if it works first. So I guess what we'll have to do is we'll have to access that, and well, no, we should be able to. Let's see if this works. See if we can just put the URL in here. Now, if we throw an error, that error should come up right away. There it is. Well, that couldn't be much easier, could it? So there's our logo, and again on these reveal slides, Alt, and then the cursor click will bring you to a spot. Now, I would like to get that not in our YAML, but I would like to actually get it in the CSS itself. Anything else we want to do here? I'm not sure if there's anything else we want to do off of it. I kind of like the way it looks, which is surprising for the first run through here. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for the hyperlink that I had to this week's slides, because on this week's slides there's a help page, and that help page took us to the CSS command, or the custom styling fields that we could actually use to override, that are the ones that are probably going to be most directly relevant for our purposes, which is kind of creating these customized themes. And again, that's on the 2 here. So custom themes 2, here's what I'm looking for. So I'm looking to see if there might be a logo option here. Now, callouts are interesting. So let's maybe take a look at callouts too, because as long as we're doing this Pink Panther thing, we might as well see if we can get the callouts to look Pink Panther-ish. So that'd be kind of fun. Fonts, we figured those out pretty easily. We could change the font size. Font looks fine. Line height, we already saw that. Again, the size of the headings we could change. I don't think we need to. I think there's an orientation too in terms of justification, left, right, that we could play with. Text shadow. I kind of like that, because let's see if we can do something with this. Now, text shadow, the CSS command itself is it's a little trickier. So there's multiple values that it actually takes. Looks like this is in the headings section. So let's actually put that here. And what text shadow does as a CSS property, let's take a look at it. So we'll have to specify, I think, at least three different properties here. And it's a vertical, it's a horizontal, it can be a color as well. I'm guessing it takes the same values, even though the command itself is different. To me, knowing nothing about it, it looks like it's kind of structured in this way. So it's horizontal shadow, vertical shadow, blur radius. That's the third that I was thinking about. And then there's a color after it. Okay. So let's try 3. I think we probably need to give it a value 3 3, and we won't do a blur to start with, but let's just give it a black. Now I'll make the mistake that I'm expecting people, if people are like me, this is a mistake that's going to be common, which is I'm forgetting kind of intentionally to put a semicolon here at the end of this line. So it either just won't recognize that, or it'll throw us an error, and here it threw us an error, so that's fine. The error, let's see, yeah, these errors are getting so much better. It's telling me, hey, you don't have a semicolon. That's really impressive. Now there's probably something else that we did too, because we're just guessing here. But if this works, the expectation is on the titles for the pages themselves, we'll see a shadow, and there is none here, so that's not entirely surprising. So we would have to play with that a little more. Maybe I'll take the PXs off, and maybe they just want a color. Let's see if that works. It's possible. It's possible that they already have those parameters specified and they're just saying, what color do you want? Yeah, we'd have to read into that a little more. So not to completely derail what we're doing here, I think we could come back to that, but maybe for now the text shadow. Oh, no, it says H1 as well too, so that's just the first level heading. So if that were to be affected, it would only be, we don't really have any first level headers. The first one, the title page is usually rendered differently. So first level header is just a single hashtag. No, it's still not going. Okay, so let's just do it quick. Sorry, I said we're not gonna spend all day on this, but just my curiosity is kind of there on this. So it did work. Okay, so it's applying it now. Yeah, it's applying it to the title page, which must be interpreted as a first level header, as well as quarto. Actually, I kind of like that. I wonder if we can apply that to second level headers as well, because I kind of like it. Now, this isn't a command that we have available to us that I saw on the Quarto help page, but just kind of logically. Nope, didn't work. So that might not be something that is currently supported. So if we did want to apply this, we could, first of all, we could write our own CSS and have it be applied, or we could just use first level headers when we wanted it to have an effect. I really like that. Now, you can make that more prominent. So we did 3. This bottom one's not working. I'm gonna get rid of it. If you really wanted to make it prominent, we can throw it up. PX is pixels. So that's what we're seeing. pixels. Now it should be larger. And I think I like that. I actually kind of like it in black even. So yeah, I think we can leave it. It it makes these look. It makes the second level headers not look as great though. So we can come back to it. I would love to tweak that just a little bit to get that shadow on uh, other ones as well. Maybe it's this presentation heading text shadow. So the H1 might be just intended for the title page. Most people don't use first level. I don't know this for sure, but I'm guessing most people don't use first level headings within their RevvealJS slides that are authored via R. It has some effect on, yeah, there it is. I like it. So I think we'll leave that. Maybe tweak it back just a little bit, right? That's kind of a lot. So let's change those to maybe 5. And we can leave the big ones bigger. That's fine. Okay. Enough playing with that. That we weren't. We were gonna see if we could get a logo in specified within the CSS file itself instead of the YAML. And then we're also gonna take a quick look at callouts. So here we go. Border width, border scale, color. Okay, so the callouts themselves, they have subtle differences in color, and so this is saying that there's a 10% shift in the hue of color that the callout actually comes in. But we can override this, so let's do that. So let's put in a note, callout note, and we can do it. Oh, codes. I also wanted to play with code a little bit because we should be able to get code chunks to look a little different. So if we did echo as a chunk command here, and that's a hash pipe in Quarto, then on this page that we're looking at, on this slide that we're looking at here, I should not only get the result, but I should also get the code repeated. And the code blocks themselves are something that we can play with here in terms of the look of them, and that might be kind of fun. Although this one isn't bad, it's actually just transparent, so we can see the background color. I think that's okay. I I shouldn't be making decisions based on anything stylistically. That's not the point of this. Okay, let's put in a callout note. So we're going to use those fenced divs, and I think it's dot callout. But I haven't used these for a while. Let's see. So that's on the bullets slide. There it is. And again, there's these callouts are operating a little funny in the current version of Quarto. Now you see it's pulling up the color with our font like we want it to. We should be able to override, and we did have a session probably a year ago on creating custom callouts. So, and now there's an extension, there's a package where you can do that. So we could get specific with how these look there, but we should be able to do it within our CSS file as well. And so this that looks really funny, doesn't it? Why is there a type in angled bracket? Oh, I gotcha. Okay, I understand. So callout color type, that's in a callout section. We don't have a callouts section. Um, we'll just, I guess we can make one. Now, that shouldn't actually matter in terms of the section, but I don't fully understand the structuring of SCSS. And some of these things apparently do have consequence. But let's just put it there, and we could play with it if it doesn't work and see. So the type, it sounds like what they want is the actual type of callout that we're doing, and we are interested in affecting the note. So let's make sure that I did that right. And then the color itself, let's have the color be our really dark heading color here. Let's see, can't be that easy, can it? Let's see if anything happens. Oh, those semicolons, it's not something that I'm used to doing. So it's a very common thing to miss. It did work. Look at that. It can't be any easier. Now again, if we wanted to get a little more specific with the icon and things like that, it's hitting me now that when we did do a custom call out, that's probably the last time we worked on Pink Panther, and I think this is the image that we used in those sessions, or something very similar anyway. Okay, so the callouts, what else can we do with the callouts? That might be a little different. Amount of bottom margin. What does our bottom margin look like? It's just a very fine white line. It's continued on the right. I don't mind that. The 10% fade, I'm kind of curious about. So let's take a look at that. Icon scale, that's fine. We might want to shift the icon itself. And this is the one that I was interested in playing with. We could also do the border width on that left. What they're talking about is the left hand kind of vertical strong accent mark. Now, that color is 10% different than this color, supposedly. But we should be able to tweak that. So let's see if we can. Now, I guess I'm not sure. Defaults to 10%, or no, where are we at? Defaults to 0%. So currently it's not any different. I guess I was reading slightly on I was off a line, I think. So let's make it fairly severe and see if there's a difference there. So that would be a fun thing to be able to kind of play with this easily. Wow. Okay. That had quite a difference. So it's making it darker. I thought it was going to make it lighter. We could try negative. Sometimes negatives work. So if 50 was darker, negative 50, if it's a acceptable value, should be lighter, just logically. Yeah, there it is. So that's an easy way to do it. Wow. This is very easy to work with. That's for sure. Now I like lighter. I don't know if I like 50 lighter, so maybe we'll just do 20. 20 lighter, and then we might be time to say goodnight. The one thing we didn't do, I guess, as we started going here, I thought it might be nice to do. Yeah, that's very nice. is get the logo in our CSS file. Again, not massively important, but if we wanted to fully kind of have this be available as a template, we could. Now, I guess one fun thing we could do is I could take an existing presentation and see how the CSS applies. Now, the problem with that is all of my presentations have a lot of CSS in them, so there's going to be a lot of content that just is going to be looking for CSS commands that are located in a different position. So let's see if we can find someone else's RevvealJS. Quarto slide, and of course all of the Quarto stuff's coming up. I'm looking for scripting examples. Now we might have to go to GitHub, and we can probably find something there. Again, this already has a lot of stuff that it's looking for. Although, are those local? I'm sorry. Yeah, so there's an images folder with a Quarto logo in it. We wouldn't have that. I'm not sure if there's a source for this in terms of the script itself. I guess we could take this. This is an example. So it's habits, and this is in the morning you get up, you have breakfast. In the evening you eat dinner and go to sleep. Fine. So we should be able to, in our project folder where we have our theme here that we're interested in, I guess we can change the name of it now, right? It's actually Pink Panther. So one thing we didn't do is we didn't change the text font, but I think it's better that way, right? So we can keep the Palantino kind of main text. It would probably be a little too much if we made everything look like this kind of 1950s stylistic kind of font. Okay, so what the heck are we gonna do? We were going to create a new Quarto presentation, and we do want to do a reveal slide deck, but I'm just going to paste in the information that I took from the Quarto page, which I can't find now. I must have closed out of it. But if we were to render this, it's going to ask us to call it something. We'll say day. Or I guess we could have called it habits. And we should get the same thing that's available on the help page for Quarto. And there we go. Okay. So if we want to apply our Pink Panther theme, it's in the folder. So here it is. Again, the theme itself, we're going to need to do a hard return after format, and then give ourselves room to specify subcommands for the RevvealJS type of document. And then the theme is theme playground.scss. And I guess we just see what happens. I'm not sure what it's going to look like. It looks a lot better. I like it. Now, bullets, I guess that's something that we probably could affect, but we didn't. I actually really like that. So I'm just kind of going back and forth. The logo, again, it's the one thing we didn't do. We should, here we were just grabbing it from an online site. We should be able to do that here as well. It's not the most efficient if we're going through the trouble of making this CSS theme. It would be nice to put that in that file as well. So maybe, and there's our logo. So nice. Maybe in the upcoming week here, what I'll do is I'll see if I can find a way to get that logo in the CSS file itself. And I keep calling it CSS, but it's technically the modern version of CSS, so the sassy CSS, the SCSS file. But I don't know. I think this is actually looking pretty good. So in terms of trying to get something that is reusable, repeatable, but conforms to a look and feel that you're trying to convey, to me, this was, there's so much that we did that wasn't explicitly in the help files, but just intuitively, it was, let's try this. And it worked fine. I guess we could, we can put a note in here. Just to make sure that that works as well. Why wouldn't it? But because you drank too much wine and ate too much biscotti. So let's see what that looks like. And again, the preview, it's kind of unfortunate the preview is not being as consistent. There's our subtle lightning that we have, otherwise reflecting the colors that we have throughout. I like it. I like it. This looks like it's having roughly the same effect that we could probably have with the brand.yaml specification as well. But again, that brand.yaml, it's probably a little more efficient because one, it applies to multiple file types, but two, it's making some of these kind of finer level distinctions that we made here. It's wrapping them up, so you don't have to get as fine with your targeting of what you're trying to do. Okay, neat. All right, thanks everybody. If there is, I'm not sure what we'll do next week because I think we've done pretty much everything we wanted to hear, and we'll certainly, if there's anything that needs to be said, I'll probably just say it in next week's wrap up. But so I'll be looking for a new topic. So if anyone is curious or has any suggestions or ideas or would like to see something, just drop me a note, and certainly I'd be up for taking a look at something different. All right. Thanks, everybody. Good night.